Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to another episode of
The Crafting Slab. Today we're going to be talking about the case of sweet Fanny Adams.
And we're going to be making an Amigurumi tortoise.
So sweet.
So we'll get started on that.
Yep, let's go.
Yeah, show you what we need. So this is a very simple craft. All you need is your crochet hook. This is a 3mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors and a large blunt-ended needle. I've made this example in white and a sort of tan color, but we're going to make it in pink, which is showing up on the camera as orange, and blue with a white pattern, just so that you can see it slightly better. You're going to need some black for his eyes, and you're going to need a very small amount of stuffing. So while I get set up, Danielle, do you want to start talking about the case?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the UK, there is a phrase or an expression known as sweet Fanny Adams, sometimes shortened to sweet FA. The modern meaning is nothing or very little. For example, you could say, Becky has done sweet Fanny Adams today. It's not used a lot anymore, but it definitely was a well-used expression. I'm sure I've heard my parents use it in the past. And I'd say most people in the UK have heard the phrase.
Yeah, it's definitely something my parents used to
know. Or know of it, even if, they don't use it.
So just to start on his legs, you can see 4 legs under here. I'm just going to make a simple slip knot and tie it off. Then I'm going to do 3 single crochet stitches, 1, 2, 3, or chains. Sorry, I'm going to chain 3, not single crochet. Show you single crochet later. And I'm going to put the hook back in the first stitch, put it through both stitches. Whoops. Through the first stitch, pull it through both stitches. Oh my goodness. Pull it through both stitches. The pattern will be in the description, so obviously you'll do a much better job than me. And then close it off. And there is, pull it through, and there is his first little foot. So we're going to make 4 of those. You have to carry on talking about the case.
Okay. So the phrase sweet Fanny Adams, where did the phrase come from, and who is Fanny Adams? Well, Fanny Adams was born in 1859 in Alton, which is in Hampshire in England. Fanny was described as being tall and intelligent and looked older than she was. On August the 24th, 1867, an 8-year-old Fanny and her younger sister Lizzie and her best friend Minnie went out to play in a flood meadow not far from her house.
What year was this again?
1867, so not a recent one.
Yeah, very common for children to be out playing.
Yeah,
at that sort of time.
As they went into the meadows, as they went from the meadows to a hop garden, they met a 29-year-old man called Frederick Baker. Baker was a solicitor's clerk and had only moved to Alton the year before.
Okay. So once we've made his 4 little legs, we put them off to the side, and we're going to start making his tummy, which is just a magic circle. There'll be a video in the description of how to do a magic circle. Close off the magic circle. It's 5 single crochets into the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull the loop tight. And then you're going to do 2 single crochets into each stitch, round and round and round, until you end up with something around this size. Really, you can just make it however big or small you like. I'll start doing that while you carry on talking.
Okay. Frederick Baker gave the girls a halfpenny each to buy sweets and gave Fanny a halfpenny to go with him. But Fanny stayed with her friend and sister, and the 3 children played together and ate blackberries that Baker had picked for them. After about an hour, Lizzie and Minnie decided they wanted to go home. Baker asked Fanny if she would accompany him, but she refused, so Frederick Baker grabbed Fanny and carried her against her will into the nearby hop garden.
God. And the other girls saw this happen.
Yeah. So they witnessed it. So these two other children ran back to Minnie's house and told Minnie's mother what had happened, but she ignored them, obviously thought it was just some made up story.
Yeah.
So they just carried on playing.
Wow. So that must be something that they were used to happening, really, if they were ignored and the parents weren't going to do anything to help them. That's quite worrying.
So they just carried on playing for a few hours. They then met a neighbour, Mrs. Gardner, and she asked where Fanny was. Obviously, the three girls are used to all playing together, and they used to see them play together.
Being seen together.
The two girls told Mrs. Gardner what happened and about how Frederick Baker had taken Fanny. Mrs. Gardner then rushed to tell Fanny's mother, and the two of them went to search for Fanny.
So the mother is, finally believes someone because an adult has said something.
Well, this is before they told Minnie's mother, who was the friend, and this is Fanny's mother they just told. So this was the first Fanny's mother heard about it. So on their search to find Fanny, they bumped into Frederick Baker, where good old Mrs. Gardner asked him straight out, "What have you done with the child?"
She sounds like a good one.
Yeah. But Baker told them that he had only given the girls money for sweets and Fanny had gone off to rejoin the other children. The two ladies believed him and returned to their house thinking that Fanny was still out just playing in the fields.
I would have wanted to see her, though. So, if that was my child, I would have wanted to lay eyes on her.
Well, Frederick Baker, he had a good job. He was solicitor's clerk. He was well dressed, nice suit. They assumed that he was respectable and that they could believe him.
No, they're the worst ones.
Yeah.
So just to show you quickly, this is what it will look like when you've done the tummy. And now we're going to move on to the shell, which I've done in a contrasting colour. And instead of doing a single crochet, so you're doing it in exactly the same way, but instead of doing a single crochet in each one, you're going to do a single crochet so instead of doing 2 single crochets in each stitch, you're going to do 2 single crochets in the first, and then 1 in the second, 2 in the first, 1 in the second, all the way around, and you will get a dome shape like this. Again, the pattern is in the description. So that's the next piece. The final piece that you'll make is the head, and you start in exactly the same way with the 5 stitches in the magic circle, and then once we get to here, we're going to close it off again. So I'll start making the head, and Danielle, if you want to continue your story.
Yeah. But at about 7 p.m, Fanny still had not returned home. So her mother formed a search party with some of the neighbours. They couldn't find Fanny in the flood meadow. However, a local labourer, Thomas Gates, went to tend to the crops in the hop garden, and it was there that he found Fanny's decapitated head stuck on 2 hop poles.
God, that's awful.
Which was a pretty gruesome find.
Yeah.
Her ear had been cut off, and there were cuts from her mouth to her ear. Her arms and legs had also been completely cut off. There were various cuts all over her body. Her internal organs had been removed, including her heart, and her vagina had been removed, and her eyes had been cut out. So really gruesome, a really horrific murder.
I remember reading about this case, and it's one of the very few that sticks with me just because of how brutal it is.
Yeah.
And
I mean, this is a really violent act. This isn't just like, it's a crime of passion, just killed someone. It was
a shot to the chest.
Yeah.
This is someone who's literally torn her limb from him. Yeah, and taken the time to do it as well.
Yeah.
But it
really evil person.
Yeah, but it's shocking in this day and age. So, it must have been so unexpected.
Yeah. And this is a place that hadn't really seen much crime.
Yeah.
It was a small town. It was, quite a nice place to live.
Yeah, but apart from the the theme park, there wasn't much to do around there, I suppose. But no, it's a really brutal case. And I remember you telling me about the case once before and watching some other videos on it, and it really is,
it's awful.
So
Fanny's mother rushed to tell her husband, who at the time had been playing cricket, but collapsed with grief upon hearing the news. He collapsed with grief upon hearing the news of his daughter. Fanny's father rushed home to get his shotgun and find the person who had done this to his daughter. But luckily, the neighbours stopped him, because obviously then he would be the one in trouble.
Yeah, say luckily, but
well, I'm sure that's what the person deserved.
Yeah.
But, the next day, it said that hundreds of people went to the hop gardens to search all over for Fanny's missing body parts, which wasn't great because they messed up a lot of the evidence.
Yeah.
But it shows community spirit that
Yeah.
everyone wanted to help.
And I think we talked about this before, as in terms of forensics, how you think of forensic evidence as these days something that's it's more modern, it's DNA and that kind of thing, but forensic evidence is basically any clue they found at the
so there was still
at the site.
They still had forensic evidence then.
They still used it.
It wasn't obviously as advanced as it is now.
Yeah,
it was still used. Frederick Baker was arrested that evening at the solicitor's office where he worked. The police had to sneak him out as there was a crowd of very angry people waiting, and they were concerned that they might try and kill Baker. So the people had obviously heard that he was being arrested for it and formed a bit of a mob out the front.
Yeah, I think I would have been at the head of that.
Yeah. Frederick Baker claimed he was innocent. However, there were spots of blood found on some of his clothing and his trousers were wet as if they'd been washed. The police found a diary in his work desk with an entry for the 24th of August, 1867, which said, "Kill the young girl. It was fine and hot."
Oh, how lovely. What a psycho.
So it was as if it was nothing to him. Just commented to kill the young girl and then commented on the weather.
Like the weather is more important, because the young girl, weather was fine and hot. The weather gets more words than the girl.
Yeah. During the investigation, a witness came forward. A young boy said he saw Frederick Baker come out of the hop garden at about 2 p.m. on the 24th of August with blood on his clothes and hands. He said Baker stopped by a river and cleaned himself and put a knife and another object in his pocket.
Sorry, just to interrupt. I'm doing the decreasing stitches for the head now. So I've gone all the way to the middle and increased to this point, and then we're going to decrease so it makes sort of a oval shape. And it will all be detailed in the description, but I'll just show you very quickly how to do a decreasing stitch in Amigurumi. So you put your crochet hook into the stitch as if you're going to do a crochet and do a single crochet and pull it through. Then instead of finishing off, you put the crochet hook back in the next stitch and pull it through. So you've got 3 on the hook now, and you pull it through. So essentially what you've done is you've turned these 2 stitches into 1 stitch, and we're going to do that all the way around until we've finished.
Cool, looks good. Shall I carry on?
Please continue.
Despite this evidence, Baker still insisted he was innocent. During the trial, Baker's defence tried to claim insanity. However, the jury took only 15 minutes to reach a guilty verdict. And on the 24th of December, Frederick Baker was hanged in front of a crowd of 5,000 people. Mainly women went to see. Obviously, they were very, it was a bit of a distraught time for everyone.
Yeah, but I heard that before, that the majority of the crowds at hangings, not just in the UK but elsewhere as well, are made up of women.
Okay, so it wasn't, because I thought because it was a child, and
it could be
at the time it was.
I don't know how true that is. That
looked after
we'd have to look into it. We're not experts. I'm not an expert, but I had heard they were talking somewhere. I was listening to a podcast about the kind of people that went and watched people being killed by guillotine in France, and they said that basically it was like a big day out for the women to go and watch
really
that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to do it, but
no,
I guess it was different back then.
Yeah, exactly.
There wasn't internet.
Yeah, you couldn't,
there was no
couldn't watch it online.
Okay, so that is the case But how did the brutal murder of an 8-year-old girl lead to the saying that we use today?
Before we do that, I'll just show you the pieces that we've got. So we've got 4 legs, a tummy, a head, a shell, and this is what you're going to end up looking like. Put that over there. And basically now I'm just going to stitch all the pieces together, and I'm going to put a little bit of stuffing inside.
Okay.
So how did it lead to the phrase we use today?
This is how the phrase came about.
Interruption from the cat.
In 1869, the British Navy started to receive tinned mutton as part of their rations.
No, no, you can stop there.
The sailors didn't like the mutton and joked that their rations resembled the remains of Fanny Adams.
How delightful.
Yeah. It soon spread to become a wider saying for something that is worthless and meaning nothing. Nowadays, we're probably more likely to use FA, sweet FA, as the shortened version. People think of it as meaning fuck all, so sweet fuck all. But now we know where the real origin comes from.
Yes.
And I think that it's not a phrase that I want to use.
No, and I
knowing where it actually came from.
Yeah, and I think also most of the people that use the phrase will have no idea that it comes from here. But now it's not
really a widely used phrase anymore.
No, it's definitely the sort of parents, grandparents generation that or millennials, grandparents and parents generations that use that. We're more likely to just say fuck all rather than the sweet part.
But if
we're being honest,
I guess even saying fuck all, this is the origins.
Yeah, this is where it comes from. So it's definitely a phrase that I won't use, and if I hear someone using it, I
tell them
the story and
sweet Fanny Adams,
or point them to our video.
8-year-old girl who had a very, very brutal death.
Really brutal. Did they discover if the killer had done it before?
I don't know. He was fairly new to the area.
Yeah.
So
perhaps that's why there might be other victims out there.
But I mean, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing at the time communication was a lot slower than it is now.
No communication between different police forces as well.
Yeah.
Even within a small area, it would be days travel.
I think it would be unusual for him to go from absolutely nothing to committing such a horrible, brutal murder on a child.
Especially because he's mentioned it so coldly in his journal. He's just said killed a young girl.
Yeah.
And there may be something somewhere where they could say whether there was anything else in the journal, but I mean, I presume it would have been mentioned.
Yeah.
But you just don't know, and that's a very scary thought that he could have done it before, and there are other victims out there that not only have been murdered by him, but perhaps not even discovered.
But then they couldn't ask him in the future because he was hanged. So that's if they didn't have the death penalty, maybe at some point he would have confessed.
Yeah, perhaps.
Another problem with the death penalty.
Yeah. You an advocate of it?
No, I don't think there should be a death penalty.
You don't believe in an eye for an eye?
No, I don't.
No.
I'm not, obviously I think anyone who commits such a crime does need to be punished. And I think for a crime like this, I can't see any kind of reform happening.
Yeah.
This person, there's no coming back from this.
No.
So they do obviously need to be punished for their crime. However, I don't think the death penalty is the right
way to go.
How about you?
I don't think that the death penalty is helpful. only because in cases like the Myra Hindley, Ian Brady murders, there are victims still out there, and you know, now that there was all, if they'd have been given the death penalty, there was some victims that were discovered a long time after.
Yeah, well, that's what we were saying about this case, isn't it? Like if he hadn't been killed, maybe if he hadn't been hanged, maybe he would have at some point confessed to whatever everything that he'd done.
Like you say, there's really no chance of reform, or there shouldn't be a chance that these people end up back in society.
No.
But it's the cases where people are left wondering, and I'm ashamed that I can't remember the name, but one of the children in the Brady Hindley murders, Ian Brady, he would go on hunger strike. He was trying to end his own life, and he could have told that grieving mother where her child was.
Yes, yeah, he refused, didn't he?
Yeah.
He would say where one of the bodies was. And the mother, I think, didn't she have cancer? And before she died, she just wanted some closure on it, and he refused.
And she used to go up to the moors all the time, and I think because probably
the Yorkshire Moors, if you don't know, is huge.
Yeah,
absolutely huge.
Massive. It's like moors is, I suppose it's another word for like plains in America, or like prairie, but it's like a very wide open space where you can go and do your nefarious deeds and nobody is going to know. No one's, one patch of heather looks very much like the next, so unless you know where these people are, or you have some kind of landmark, they will never be discovered. And chances are this awful human being has other victims out there too.
Yeah, it was interesting, however, with this Fanny Adams case, that the cause of death on her death certificate read injuries inflicted by Frederick Baker, in brackets murder, and that was before the trial, so before he was even found guilty. That's what was put on the death certificate.
So it was
yeah, but that's because they think that the initial cause of death was being hit on the head with a rock. But it was difficult to actually determine because of the
extent of her
condition of the body. But yeah, they found a rock with blood in it, so that's why they thought that was the cause of death. But they couldn't determine it, so they put inflicted by Frederick Baker.
So they'd actually stated on her death certificate.
Yeah, which is unusual.
Who had done it? Yeah, that is unusual, actually.
Before he was even
tried.
Yeah,
I suppose nowadays that would sort of be as a result of trial by media. That you've already the newspapers have already decided that someone's guilty before they've even had a fair trial.
Yeah, but it's a very sad case.
It is a very sad case, and I think maybe now we've made these little guys, it would be nice to go and visit Fanny Adams, where her grave is in Alton, and take these to her.
That'd be lovely. So that was the case of Sweet Fanny Adams and how the phrase we used today came about.
That was a really interesting case. And we, like I say, we've made these beautiful Amigurumi tortoises to perhaps we'll have a trip to Alton and take them to Fanny Adams.
They're so cute.
And on this one, I've just given him a little sort of pattern on his shell and put some eyes in there. And you can, if just by adjusting the pattern, if you just continue crocheting around, you can make them any size you like. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye.